Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, and Hell's Paradise, crowned by many as the Dark Triad, a parallel to the Big Three. While this manga trio draws inspirations from aspects of the Big Three, they differ from them by being a lot more tense, darker, and gorier. I've gone over Chainsaw Man, plan to go over Jujutsu Kaisen, but today I want to go over what makes Hell's Paradise so good and why you should be excited for the anime to come out. The story begins with the main character, named Gabimaru, subconsciously stopping himself from being executed. From the get-go, we learn that Gabimaru is extremely ruthless, having the capacity to kill people without feeling anything, the reason as to why he's named Gabimaru the Hollow. We learn that this is due to his upbringing in the extremely violent Iwagakure village, where he gained the mindset that things like emotions and dreams are useless. At this point, we're also introduced to the character of Sagiri, who has the title of Esaemon, people who are extremely skilled in the art of execution, who prods Gabimaru for his reasoning to stay alive. We find out that he has a wife, likely the reasoning for his subconscious avoidance of death. Multiple times in the first chapter, we see Gabimaru, the character said to be devoid of emotion, lying to himself about wanting to die. And through the character of Sagiri, we learn that his one attachment to life is his other half, who seemed to give him a different outlook on life. She believed that no one could accept her due to her external flaws, whereas I think that Gabimaru believed that he couldn't find emotional or physical dependence in someone else due to his internal flaws and upbringing. The main premise of the story is relatively simple. The shogun of the land believes that there's an elixir of life on an extremely mysterious island, and he's resorted to offering a pardon to some of the area's most ruthless criminals if they can retrieve it, after being frustrated from his failed attempts. With all the criminals summoned, we get to see most of the main cast. Pretty much all of them are depicted as being extremely visually flawed, and it's very clear from the outset that they're shunned by society. The criminals are told that on the island they would be accompanied by the executioners named Esaemon, who have orders to kill them if they act out of order. The criminals have not only been dehumanized by the art, but also by the characters with a higher societal standing. The Esaemon criminal relationship isn't seen as a teamwork thing at this point, but more like a pet-owner relationship, and this is made clear by the bonds and chains used, the fact that they're told to kill each other off like animals, as well as the constant insults that they receive. Despite being shown as inhuman and devilish in the beginning, we see that beneath just wanting the pardon, some of these characters have very genuine aspirations and goals, and the reader quickly learns to have sympathy for a lot of the cast. We're shown that the world isn't just black and white, there's a lot more nuance to it, and the concepts of good and evil are for the most part thrown out due to the motives of every character. The consistent theme is that a lot of these criminals were forced to be criminals due to their circumstance or upbringing and were simply unlucky. The shogun offers to pardon one criminal, but I think that the author wants us to individually pardon every single criminal by giving us a different perspective from the society that cast them aside. After seeing their dialogue and interactions with others on the island, it's interesting to look back and see that these criminals seem more human than the shogun that sent them off on the mission. Just like Chainsaw Man, the art style manages to perfectly capture the setting of the series. Based on information given earlier, it's implied that the island is beautiful, and Yuji Kaku manages to follow up on that implication perfectly. From the exterior, the island is stunning, but the inhabitants of it have extremely sick and twisted designs, and we can quickly see that all the characters on the island have been plunged into hell. I think that there is significant meaning to the island itself, and how it correlates with the main ideas of the series, which I believe are humanity and emotion. We learn to not judge characters based off of their appearance, just like the island. It looks beautiful, and the victims of it in the past likely thought they'd be safe due to its facade of serenity, but this was proven wrong, their corpses being proof of this. If we look at the three aforementioned series, Jujutsu Kaisen excels extremely well in its world building, Chainsaw Man in its themes, but where I think Hell's Paradise succeeds greatly is within its side cast. I think in every series I've read or watched, Hell's Paradise probably has one of the, if not the greatest side casts I've ever seen. Due to the nature of the island and how dangerous it is, the pet-owner relationship between the criminals and the Esaemon is quickly forgotten as they both have to focus on survival. Because of the necessity to team up, we're able to see character dynamics and interactions that never would have happened otherwise, and with this we get to see some truly magical character arcs. There is a clear-cut main character in Gabimaru, but when the story focuses on the situation of another character, because of the amount of depth and quality in them, you want to see their own individual stories continue. Of course your main character is important, but it's clear to see that despite that, other characters are able to function and thrive flawlessly without them. Due to the nature of the series, it's inevitable that each pair will meet with one another, and it's really nice to see and theorize about how it will happen, as well as thinking about how certain personalities will clash. The fights are chaotic, but in a good way. The art style is able to show off the beauty of the world, but also the chaos and intensity variety of fights. And while I'm on the topic of fights, I'll touch on the power system real quick. The main power is called Tao. It exists in everything like the ground, water, and plants. Emotions are an integral factor that determine your Tao output, which is very fitting for the series. It's within this power system that we see Gabimaru flourish as a character and learn to accept and nurture his emotions as a means of survival. Tao takes on the form of elements within humans, being wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. These attributes have immense importance in battle and allow for characters that may be weaker in certain aspects manage to hold their ground against someone stronger due to their elemental affinity. The power system is thought-provoking, but not too complex. It's kind of like a combination of Nen from Hunter x Hunter and basic use of cursed energy from Jujutsu Kaisen. The story never feels static, it's constantly moving, and I think that Hell's Paradise nailed the pacing. Some series are slow burners and some series hit you with breakneck pacing, but this one finds a perfect balance between them. Tension is kept very high, and you have to accept that characters are going to die, and this keeps you on edge thinking about how X character can get out of a situation. I've talked about characters as a whole, but I do want to go over some that are my personal favourites. There are slight spoilers from this point onwards, so watch at your discretion. I'll start with Aza Chobei. As a child, him and his brother were born into a life of luxury as the sons of a retainer to a daimyo. However, after the daimyo attacked a court official, their father had their status removed and the brothers were forced to live in poverty. Their mother died of illness, their dad was executed, so they had to fend for themselves. Chobei didn't become a criminal because he enjoyed it or because he was a psycho. He became a bandit in order to protect his brother and himself. We see that he values the life of his younger brother greatly, shown through actions of him in the past and the present. Throughout the stories, the criminals begin to behave less abrasive, although ruthless to their enemies are for the most part normal. I think that Chobei is the exception to this rule in his own special way. His fighting style is extremely brutal, his language is vulgar, and he still acts like a quote-unquote criminal. The one person he shows a soft and protective side towards being his younger brother. This remains the same for most of the series, though he does grow to cooperate with the other characters in the cast. As the main motif in this series to me is humanity, I think that Chobei's mentality is pretty human. His desire to protect his younger sibling, who he lost everything with together, and shut out everything else because of his experiences with those outside of his family make complete and utter sense. The next character I want to talk about is Gantetsusai. Though his reasoning for being a criminal was pretty basic and honestly kind of funny in comparison to the others, his development during the series is absolutely beautiful. He was arrested for cutting down a daimyo's property and was then recruited to find the elixir in exchange for a pardon due to his strength. We see during the course of the series that he considers fighting to be fun and lives for the sole purpose of seeking out and battling strong opponents. His wish is to go down as a legendary figure by performing extraordinary feats in combat, and rather than gaining the elixir of life, he believes that being renowned is true immortality, which I believe in a way is true. It's very normal to not want to be forgotten and to be remembered for your achievements, and Gantetsusai is a testament to that fact. This is probably my favourite manga series of all time right now, and I have a lot of faith that Mappa will deliver justice. Hopefully this video has either made you excited for the release of it, made you want to read it, or be interested in the series. Tell me what you want to see next, and as always, thank you for watching.